see I'm thrilled to see faces I haven't seen before. This is an interesting collection of people here in Montevideo because we are what I would call a tight-knit, loosely associated group. We come from different religious backgrounds and different political philosophies, and we have spent years doing things together, working on things together. One of the main things we have done for many years is that Doug and Emily are here, and they instituted a thing called potluck prayers and pies. Many years ago, where we would pick topics and come together and discuss them and look at them from a policy point of view, from a spiritual point of view, and share ideas with each other about how we can make our community stronger. In the last few months, we've been working with the former members of the UCC Church, who had such a strongly established community building philosophy and approach. And so we're continuing to do things together, because once you have a group, right? So today we are doing something that's been done for many years here in Montevideo. It's Martin Luther King Day, and we're really grateful for everyone who was able to come. Our main speaker is Jamie Niemeyer, and before Jamie starts her part, that she will be introduced by her dear friend Sandy Erickson. This is my first time to meet Jamie, but I have been admiring her work on the river in Granite Falls for many years now. The mural, and I understand Sandy also had a part in some of those murals there on the river, which were exquisite. We'll hear more about Jamie's work later today. We're also being joined by Rose, and Rose's last name is? Meyerhoff. Rose is a survivor of the Holocaust, if you don't mind my telling that. And she recalls vividly the response that she or her household had to the assassination of Dr. King. And so while I think a lot of the people in this room were not born, or we were kids, we were teenagers, and maybe we were in college, but we were young when Dr. King was assassinated. But Rose has a wonderful story to tell about a response that she and people close to her had, and the steps they took after the assassination of Dr. King. We have fabulous music. So Dennis Darling is joining us, and Audrey Arner and Doug and Emily Wright have come from the Twin Cities. And so we're very blessed to have music, and Dennis moved heaven and earth to get this piano into his room. He brought it with him on his back from home, right? And of course, we'll have some refreshments, and we will invite you to stay and visit after the presentations are done. So we will begin now with some music.
Sing My name is Sandy Linnerson, and I'm so delighted to introduce to you Jamie Niemeyer. And you're probably wondering why we're standing up here next to each other. We are the best of friends. We are people that empower each other, people that teach each other, and oftentimes I am the student. I am learning, and they always say that the best of people agree to disagree. So I am the one who said, I am not colorblind. And Jamie looks at me like, got a little bit of work to do here, Sandy. I am not prejudiced. And Jamie's looking at me like, have you ever heard of white privilege, Sandy? It's like, no, tell me about it. So Jamie is my go-to person. Jamie is an amazing artist. Our friendship grew as a result of an art gallery display in Montevideo, Minnesota. She also invited me to do a mural with her on Riverfront Drive in Grand Falls, Minnesota. She has been given a grant to work with Southwest Minnesota Arts Council and had Project 44, which is 44 influential Black American individuals, and she researched those and she presented that at the Southwest Minnesota Arts Council. She will be on postcards on February 9th. She'll be on television, so we're really excited about this. And all of her pieces honor Black Americans who have done substantial work in the United States and around the world and inspired us to be kinder, better people. So and today you see 10 pieces, and I am so delighted to introduce to you Jamie Niemeyer.
Everyone, I am Jamie Niemeyer. So I'm speaking on something that I have not really embraced myself for a very long time. I am now 46 years old. I know a lot of women are like, age, don't say. But the reason I reference that is because until I was 44 years old, I would do everything in my power to deny that I was African American. My entire family is white. My mom, my step-parent, my stepfather, and my brothers and my sisters. The community that I have lived in my entire life is all white. I knew no Black person. So, as you sit here looking for knowledge from me about the African American race and what they've been through, I have the same thought process as everyone else in this area about everything. I did everything as a child I could to fit in, so that no one would notice. And obviously, I am not the person that you just go, oh yeah, she blends in. And it's not just because of my color. It's actually because of who I am altogether. And I have now am coming into terms with that altogether, embracing who I am, what I stand for, where I've come, and that means understanding and learning about the people that we have had come before us. Okay? So that means who are the people that I could look to and go, that's why we do these things. That's who we are. Now, we just never had gotten to that. I never learned any of that stuff. We didn't learn that in school. I think there were I discovered, thinking about it, there were 3 Black people that we even talked about in history class or in school, okay? We heard about Rosa Parks, right? We heard about, I think it was Washington Carver was one of them that I remember hearing about, right? And then it was Martin Luther King. And I was like, well, okay, whatever, you know. I went to school in Marshall, and I think in school there were like 3 other black kids. And the assumption is that since there's 3 other black kids in school, that we were all friends. Just because your skin color or any of those other things might be similar does not mean that you're friends. It doesn't mean that I got this auto tune for people that are the same race as me and we know everything about each other. That's not the way it works. Just like anything else in life, you have to take the time to learn those people. You learn about people, you learn about who they are, what they've been through, what their life is. And so I didn't know them. And so for me, I'm just like, okay, it's just another day. And throughout that day, there were different things that would happen. Different things. Sitting in class where everybody else in the classroom was white, and it was like, I want to be white. I want to be just like everybody else, so that people aren't saying to me, hey, can I touch your hair? Your hair is so different, it's so cool, let me touch it. Why do you do that to everybody else? Why do you need to touch my hair? Why? Because I'm different. So that means it's okay, right? It's okay to say the things that are hurtful because I'm not the same, right? That's the common misconception that we've all had throughout the world, all the time. And the people that are out there saying, I'm not racist. Everybody, every person in here has something. It's all in there. It's human nature. We all have certain judgments. Does that make it right? It's human nature. But there are things that we can do to make changes about that. Because, hello everyone. I am Jamie Niemeyer. So I'm speaking on something that I have not really embraced myself for a very long time. I am now 46 years old. I know a lot of women are like, age, don't say. But the reason I reference that is because until I was 44 years old, I would do everything in my power to deny that I was African American. My entire family is white. My mom, my step-parent, my stepfather, and my brothers and my sisters. The community that I have lived in my entire life is all white. I knew no black person. So, as you sit here looking for knowledge from me about the African American race and what they've been through, I have the same thought process as everyone else in this area about everything. I did everything as a child I could to fit in, so that no one would notice. And obviously, I am not the person that you just go, oh yeah, she blends in. And it's not just because of my color, it's actually because of who I am altogether. And I have now am coming into terms with that altogether, embracing who I am, what I stand for, where I've come, and that means understanding and learning about the people that we have had come before us. Okay? So that means who are the people that I could look to and go, that's why we do these things. That's who we are. Now, we just never had gotten to that. I never learned any of that stuff. We didn't learn that in school. I think there were like, I discovered, like, thinking about it, there were like 3 black people that we even talked about in history class or in school, okay? We heard about Rosa Parks, right? We heard about, I think it was Washington Carver was one of them that I remember hearing about, right? And then it was Martin Luther King. And I was like, well, okay, whatever, you know. I went to school in Marshall, and I think in school there were like 3 other black kids. And the assumption is that since there's 3 other black kids in school, that we were all friends. Just because your skin color or any of those other things might be similar does not mean that you're friends. It doesn't mean that I got this auto-tune for people that are the same race as me and we know everything about each other. That's not the way it works. Just like anything else in life, you have to take the time to learn those people. You learn about people, you learn about who they are, what they've been through, what their life is. And so I didn't know them. And so for me, I'm just like, okay, it's just another day. And throughout that day, there were different things that would happen. Different things. Sitting in class where everybody else in the classroom was white, and it was like, I want to be white. I want to be just like everybody else, so that people aren't saying to me, hey, can I touch your hair? Your hair is so different, it's so cool, let me touch it. Why do you do that to everybody else? Why do you need to touch my hair? Why? Because I'm different. So that means it's okay, right? It's okay to say the things that are hurtful because I'm not the same, right? That's the common misconception that we've all had throughout the world, all the time. And the people that are out there saying, I'm not racist. Everybody, every person in here has something. It's all in there. It's human nature. We all have certain judgments. Does that make it right? It's human nature. But there are things that we can do to make changes about that. Because everything that we are is what builds the world. That's what builds our communities. That's what builds our life. We have the choice to make a good, loving world. We have the choice to do that. And what that is by learning about other people. So, like I said in the beginning, I was very against being African American. I didn't listen to any music that was considered black. I wouldn't watch any movies of any kind that had a black person in it because I didn't want people to think that that's what I would do. Yet, when I would walk in a store, I was followed all the time because their knowledge is that a black person is going to steal, that they're going to do something wrong. That is what we saw. That's what we were out there telling our children and all the other people. And that's not the case. It was like, you can follow me around all you want. I'm not taking anything, I'm not doing anything. But we thought that's what it was. I had gotten to the point in my life when my best friend had said to me, she's like, what are you doing, you know? And I said, well, I gotta go take a bath for a while. She's like, okay, why does it smell like bleach in here? Why does it smell like bleach in here? It smelled like bleach because I was taking Brillo pads and bleach and scrubbing because I wanted to be like everybody else. And I couldn't, because that's not who I am. That's not the way that works. So in 1989, where I moved from Marshall, where there were 3 black people, right? I moved to Granite Falls, Minnesota. Now, we know where Granite Falls is. We're in Montevideo. There's not too much of a difference when it comes to that. And so, that was 1989. There was not another black person in the school. Another black person in the town. So, that was an interesting time for me, to be followed around, to be just put on this like list of, we stay away from this because it's bad. And we didn't have that opportunity to know who I was. So the first thing, we get into class and doing our thing, and besides the regular, I'm not even, all of the things, the picking on, all of the things that happened, that's a different thing. That's a whole different thing. Because I had done all of this stuff to try to fit in, right? So all of a sudden it's January 15th. And I'm like, okay, it's January 15th. It's Monday, January 15th. And we're all going into the auditorium for Lyceum. And I'm like, just like every other kid that's, 13 years old, I don't want to do this. Why do we have to listen to this? What's going on? And they get up on the stage and we're going to watch a video and we're going to have a talk about Martin Luther King Jr. And I'm just like, just like everybody else, just fiddling around, like, wait. And the entire crowd turns and glares at me. If you could physically feel daggers go through you, that was what was happening at that time. Because before that point, it was never something that was shown. But it was changed to make sure that we had it, because now there's a black kid in school. Mm-hmm. So that one piece of racism that we're not really trying to do, we're trying to help, right? We're trying to help. But in that instant, that little piece that you totally would not understand and think was racism was. Because I then got singled out. I then was looked at like, well, why do we have to do this? We never had to do it before, just because we have that N-word in our school now. And I was like, what are we doing? I don't want to know anything. Didn't know anything about Martin Luther King Jr. Didn't have a clue. So I went on, just like everything else. All of these many years, I had children. This is 19. I was 19 when I had 20 when I had my first daughter. And the school function came up. My daughter, she was about 8. Yeah, about 8 years old. And they're like, oh, it's Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. We've got an assembly coming up. Hey, Jamie, will you come speak for us? What am I speaking for? What am I speaking for? Well, I don't understand. It was that I was supposed to know, and I didn't. I didn't know. But it was because I was the only black person. And I want you all to know right now, don't just because I'm here now that this is, I'm getting to that point, right? I'll get there. But I was like, how would I know anything about this? I don't know. Like, why do you think I know? Well, because, and it's the because. Okay, all right. No, I don't, so no, I won't. And time passed. And then it's 2000, and this is just giving you the timeline change so you see this progression. Then all the, I'm working as a para up at the school in Granite. Now my youngest daughter is now 18 years old. You know, so that's not very long ago. And we're getting ready to go into the class. I'm working as a para. I'm working in the sixth grade classroom. And I'm coming into the room just like I always did, getting all excited, you know, high-fiving the kids because I'm hyper. So I'm like, yay! And the student teacher came over, pulled me aside, and she's like, I got called in at the last minute. We have this stuff that's going on. I've got to do this paper and talk to the kids about Martin Luther King Jr. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you want me to do? Well, can you give them some of the information? What information? I don't know. I looked at her and I said, he had a dream? He had a dream. That was all I knew. So, jump forward. To me, my being 44 years old at the time, finally looking at myself and saying, I need to figure this out. Who am I? Where do I come from? Who are these people ask me about? What have they done and why is it so important? So I was able to get a grant from Southwest Minnesota Art Council. And I decided that I needed to grow. So for me to grow, it was for me to start looking at African Americans. It's part of who I am. I need to accept it. I want to accept it. I want to learn. And so I decided that my project was going to be learning about 44 different Americans because I was turning 44 years old. And it took 44 presidents before we got to an African American. So I started my research. I started looking at the different people that were out there. I started looking into all of this interesting information on who these people are and what they did and how I would never be where I was. I wouldn't have been sitting next to the other kids that I was sitting next to in the classroom. I wouldn't have been in an all-white school. I would have been by myself. And because of these people, like Martin Luther King Jr., taking the steps that he did to open other people's eyes into what there is, I never would have had this opportunity. Years past, there's no way I would be here speaking about it because I didn't know anything. But I have now researched, and when I was doing the project and looking into these amazing people, I learned what Martin Luther King did to the world on what it was to be a human being, what it was like to treat each other with respect, to know that no matter who you are, what color your skin is, what religion you are, anything, your class as far as how much money you make, if you're a male, female, or anything, it didn't matter. What mattered was that we were together. We are humans in this world together. We are all joined. My blood is the same as your blood. Our organs are all the same. And Martin Luther King Jr. saw that. He understood that. He died because he was speaking the truth. He died because people could not handle the truth that was going on in the world. What he did for all of us is an amazing thing. He spoke with the authority more powerful than anything else. It's okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem. I'll let you through.
Yes.
So what he spoke on was being able to join together. He went through a lot just to be able to speak the truth, for us to hear what's really out there. He would drive and he was instantaneously pulled over. And why? Because he spoke his truth. Because his skin was different. And that's not the way things should be. We all should be able to drive in our vehicles. We all should be able to cross the street. We all should be able to ride the bus and sit wherever we want, right? We have Rosa Parks, who was the I want to say, let's see, martyr, I think, the person that everyone looked to because of sitting in the front seat. Now, she was not the first. She was not the first. She was the chosen to represent what was going on. The fact that she was not able to sit in the front of the bus and was pushed to the back, because that's where your kind belongs. What's my kind? What's my kind? We are all the same kind. And it's gone from years and years and years to see all of that. 1968 was when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. I was not born yet. And I didn't realize what had happened or how much that meant until I was 44 years old. And I started looking into it and saying, wow, to be able to be that powerful of a person, that people can build up that much hatred for you, that they want to see you dead, is powerful. That's a lot of power. And people need to remember those things. Remember that being different is not a bad thing. Could you imagine looking around at everything and everyone being the same? I can't imagine that. And now that I think about it and I see it and I start understanding and pulling into that and realizing who I am, I don't want to be the same. I don't want to be the same. I don't have to be the same. I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be true to myself, and I'm going to learn all of the things that I want to learn about everybody. And Martin Luther King Jr. gave me that opportunity by what he did, what he stood for, the amount of people that were involved, not just in America at that time with Martin Luther King Jr., is an amazing amount of people. To think that people of different races, interracial, were not allowed to be married, is hard for me, because it's like, it really shouldn't matter. And I am fully open to everyone being whoever, whatever you want. You want to know why? Because of love. Do you know what it's like not to have love? It's pretty harsh feeling not to know what love is, or feel love, or be loved. Why would we do everything that we do in this world to try to make it so people can't have love? Why do we do that? We don't need to. What we want is to make sure that people feel love. We look at each other and we can look past those differences. Look past the things that are out there that everyone wants to throw that line in the sand and say, you're not the same, you can't pass that line. We don't need to do that. What we want is the world where we can all pass through and work and be together as one. I also studied Maya Angelou, and these people, all of these people, have amazing stories. When you start listening to the things that they have, the struggles that they went through to get where they are, you'd be amazed. From their horrid childhoods to the way they were treated by other people for their skin tone, to, just not being able to be in the same classroom, not to be able to go in the same door, to just not being able to be or feel loved by other people and be looked down on and hated for something as simple as a skin color. As simple as a skin color. Simple thing. Something that you are born with. It doesn't change. Believe me, I've tried. Remember, I tried. It doesn't change. What changes is inside me. The acceptance, the learning, the knowledge that you gain from being you, from being who you are, and extending that to the other people around you. To knowing that the dream that Martin Luther King Jr. had is a dream that we all should have. We all should be thinking of a world where we can be together, where we don't have to have all of these other things that just tear each other down. My first memory of knowing that I was different, I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I'm at the playground playing and going up and down the slide, the old slides with the metal that you burn your whole bottom half. When you're going down, it's sunny and you're outside and you're like totally stoked about it, but you burn yourself going down and you just keep doing it no matter what. And I kept on doing that. I was excited, and there's this other little girl that was playing with me, and we were just going up and down having a blast. And all of a sudden I get down the end of the slide and she's already down, and boom, out of nowhere, absolutely nowhere, this woman appeared. Her mom appeared out of nowhere, picked her up, and said, "Let's go, we have to go." And the daughter's crying and, "Well, I'm having fun, Mom, I'm having fun, I want to play." And the mom looks at her and says, "I'm not going to have you play with her kind. You cannot play with her kind." That day was one of the hardest days of my life, because I realized that I was different in a way that made it so that I couldn't even play. As children, we are open to the world. We look at each other with happiness and joy and playfulness. That's what we do. We're like, "Hey, we're going to the park, yay, we're gonna go do this, we're gonna go build a fort, we're gonna do all these things," and we've got all of this energy and love and excitement, and it doesn't matter who they are. Doesn't matter if they're a boy, doesn't matter if they're a girl, it doesn't matter what color they are. We know, as a child, we're having fun, and we love. we love unconditionally. As adults, we start to take that away from those children because of our stigmatisms, our racisms, our things, whether it could be, whether they feel that, oh, your religion is different than mine. All of those things could be different. And as an adult, we then take that away from that child. That day, not only did I lose a piece of myself, but that other girl did too. So when I look at all of these things today in the world, I realize that things have changed. We've come a long way, but yet we haven't come all the way. We've got a long ways to go, guys. We really do. Not only because of yes, we live in an area that, is primarily white. Guess what? That's okay. Like I said, I don't care what color you are. You could be aquamarine for all I care. But if you're happy, you got the energy, you got the love, that's what matters. And so what Martin Luther King Jr. did for us, did for me, was open my eyes and gave me a path that I would not have had before. And so I use my art, whether it's my doodling, my wood burning, my metal work, anything, to show who I am, what I love. Musicians use that in their music. Now, if you would have watched me, I got my sheet in front of me, I was not singing. Want to know why? I suck. I talk a lot, I've got a loud voice, all good, but I suck as a singer. So I don't sing. But I love music, absolutely love music. And my husband was a musician. He played from his heart. Could you imagine being a musician and saying, no, you can't have that. I'm going to take your guitar away from you because you just don't fit in? Could you imagine taking something away just because you don't fit in right? Not having those things because you don't fit in? It's not a good thing. It's terrifying. Think of those things that you enjoy and who you are. And imagine if you were told that you couldn't have it or you couldn't do it because you weren't right. You're not one of our people. You're not our kind. And I know that this still happens to this day because about 6 months ago, I went to the gas station, and I'm a very, just being here, y'all can see it, I don't hide it, you can tell, I'm a pretty excitable, happy, person, and I'm very much, if someone needs help, I'm gonna help you. If the door, I based my own moralities and all of those things on things that I saw that I felt were good things. So I'm taking them from all over the different places. And so I was like, okay, well, this lady's walking in, and I am always forever going to open the door. I don't care who you are, I'm gonna open the door for you. This is the way that I am. So I was going in, and I opened the door for her, and there was another person coming, and they're like, oh, thank you so much. And this lady looks at this guy, glares at him, looks at me up and down, and then looks at this guy, and he says to him, I can't believe you let her open the door for you. I would not let her kind do that. Walked around and went out the other door. This was 6 months ago, guys. 6 months ago. It's still out there. So what our job is to help others understand that it doesn't need to be there. Kindness is kindness. Kindness is kindness. And that's what we should be basing our lives on, is kindness and love. That's what Martin Luther King Jr. stood for. And there's a lot of other things as far as each one of the people that I learned, and I did learn more about Martin Luther King Jr., but I'm not here to give you the play-by-play on his life. I ask you to research, learn, take that time to start learning about other people, whether they're of your same nationality or whatever. Take the time to start learning something different about everybody. There is a lot out there. There are a lot of people out there that we need to thank for where we are today. And people that we still have in areas right now that we need to make changes for. And that things that we need to do to make changes for the people that are going to be following us. Today, we are history. We are making the history for the grandchildren that are out there, the people that are following us. We are now historical. So I say, do what you can to help the rest of them learn and grow, be part of it. So I will end just letting you know what I have coming up and where I am with my art. I started doing I started doing wood burning. I love wood burning. It's absolutely zen. It's a very calming experience. I do some steel work and sculpture work on that end. I still do my paintings. I do some color paintings. I do black and white paintings. On Facebook, I do live sessions where I do wood burnings, paintings, mental health talks, any racial type of talks and speaking, things like that. And then right now, currently I have a show that is set up at Blue Nose Gopher Public House in Granite Falls. That will be set up until March. My show there will be February 24th from 6 o'clock to 8 p.m. I will be doing live wood burning at that time. Also coming up in February, on February 9th, there is going to be on PBS postcards, there will be a feature on me. They came up to my studios and got to see some of the stuff that I do. So you get to kind of see some of that stuff and just kind of see who I am. And this gives you a little just snippet of who I am and what I am. And I ask you just to learn about everyone that is around you and just take that time. Take that time with the people that you're with and that you're around to learn a little bit more about yourself and where you want to go. Learning about yourself and knowing that is a huge thing. And I'm glad that I went through that process.
Black man, black mother's sons is as important as the killing of white men. White mother's sons, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
So about noon today, I thought
I'm gonna call Rose Meyerhoff because Rose has a legendary and rich life history. We've had the pleasure to be friends since my brother married her daughter. And she has a rainbow of grandchildren. She has stories that will keep you up late at night. And she remembers, well, the day that Dr. King was murdered. And so I asked her if she would share a little bit of that with us, her recollection, whatever else she winds up wanting to talk about. I am willing to listen. So, Rose Meyerhoff, friends.
I'm not going to talk about before I came to the United States because that will take another hour at least. But I was reminded when Jackie is your name?
Jamie.
When you spoke about discrimination, we had that during the war. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. During the Second World War, I'm very old. I'm going to be 90 in June. So I was a child during the Second World War, and when the Germans came through Belgium, which is where I lived, they decided they have to purify the race. No more Jews are impure, they're just this much above a pig, and they should be eliminated because the Caucasian people have to be pure Caucasian, not a drop of Jewish blood. It's a religion, but don't tell that to Hitler. He doesn't want to know facts. So we were not allowed to go to school with the Christian children. We had to stay home and manage on our own. We were not allowed to go to any public place, the parks, the movie house. I can't remember, I was a child, but Jews was bad news. And so I happen to be Jewish. I think me and my daughter are the only Jews in Montevideo as far as I know. And we had Mike Jacobs for a while. Anyway, so I identified with how far prejudice can go. And of course, my parents and my whole family was killed because they were Jews. That was their crime. They were born in a different religion. The color of the skin was the same. That was not our problem. But our religion was different. The fact that Jesus was a Jew again, don't tell that to Hitler, he didn't want to know. So I'll go straight to the Martin Luther King, keep it short. When Martin Luther King got killed, I was, I think, in my 30s. And my husband is 8 years older, so he was really old. And we just couldn't, we watched the TV, we couldn't believe our eyes. We had heard nothing but good things about this person, this man that he risked his life, he went to jail, it was terrible what he went through to bring people all the same, make all people the same, whether they're black or Jewish or American Indian, essentially he wanted everybody to be treated the same. And he got nothing but trouble. So there he got killed, and my husband couldn't stand it. He was born in Germany. He had the same adventures that I had, except he was able to get out of Germany in 1939. So he didn't see the whole war in Germany. He was in the United States, but Hitler got busy very early. In 1933, he started cleaning up Germany, the Jews had to go. So he was familiar with discrimination to the extreme. So he kept saying, we gotta do something, this can't go on here. So he contacted the National Urban League, I believe, well, the local Minneapolis Urban League, and he said, we had never associated with any person of color, not because we felt that we shouldn't, it's because, I don't know, wherever he went, his job, Honeywell, I think finally hired one African-American, he had a master's degree in mathematics, and they were hesitating, will he be able to do the job? And they tried, okay, we'll try one, see how that works. So, not, our neighborhood, Honeywell, that they talked us into moving to Minneapolis from New York. They said, we'll send somebody will drive you around to show where you could buy a house or rent an apartment. She took us to St. Louis Park, which is where the other Jews live. And my husband says, I don't want to drive all this way to Honeywell. Honeywell is in the plant he was in was St. Anthony Village. So she said, well, you'll be happier. She was trying to, and he insisted. He put a protractor, I think it's called, it has a sharp point, and you go like this. I'm not driving more than 15 minutes. So that's how we settled in Fridley, which is, they had no other Jews in all of them. So it was a little tricky, but he didn't feel different, and I didn't feel different by the time I arrived here in Minnesota. But anyway, so we found out what she meant, What was she pushing St. Louis Park for? Well, there are no Jews there. All the Jews are in St. Louis Park. So no Jews, no African Americans, that's it. So anyway, we contacted, they put my husband in touch with other African Americans, and he decided what we need in this country is black businesses to be treated the same. If you buy from a black business, not because they're black, but because they have what you need, You're looking for pencils, to the point of going to a black office supply place, so that the income of African American business people will go up, because he felt they were struggling to make ends meet because white people don't want to buy food, The color might cover up on the supplies that you buy. So he put together a book of local shops in Minneapolis, a grocery store, a dry cleaner, I forget all the different, we made a list, and it was called, the newspaper picked it up right away, and they called it Buy Black, buy from black businesses. And so then the Minneapolis Tribune was heavy on it, and Honeywell gave all kinds of publicity because it was one of theirs, and one of their employees had this brilliant idea. So it started with a small little book, and he asked the guy at Honeywell that was African American, could you help me out? Because he was black, maybe other black people, businesses. He says, I don't know from nothing. Valley, So we had to do the research on our own. And so the book got a little bigger, and then it was successful. The white people really, I'm not saying everybody in Minneapolis, but a lot of people decided, I'm going to make an effort to seek out whatever I need, dry cleaning or hardware store, whatever it was. And they started buying, and the businesses made out better. And then, of course, they can hire more people, and hopefully they will hire minority students because, employees, because black people also couldn't get jobs that paid the same as white people. So this would be a chance to, get up a little bit. So it sounded good to him, and that's what he did. Well, he was advertising that he had this book, and he spoke in churches, in community centers, on the radio. He had a weekly program on the radio where he interviewed a couple of black people, businesses on the radio. And what do you do? Well, I sell shoes, and I'm located at this place and whatever. So the word spread, and some people didn't like the idea. What are these so-and-so Jews doing, meddling in, trying to push black people down our throat, And so our house, our front door got smashed. We live out in Fridley, so it's, we're not in the middle of downtown, so somebody had to smash our front door. I would get calls during the night, I didn't have a phone by the bed. I had a phone in the kitchen, so I would go down the stairs, nigger lover, hang up. So we had problems of all kinds. Do something to alleviate the situation a little bit, It's just a drop in the bucket, but you feel you're trying. So anyway, the Urban League was very enthusiastic about the project, and Honeywell gave him a leave of absence to work on this project full time, because he was working time and a half in Honeywell, not overtime pay, just staying till 10 o'clock every night. He had no time to do the project also, and he had 2 kids. I think the third one was born too. Sorry about that. I'm losing track. I had 3 kids. Hello, what's wrong? So the Urban League decided they would pay his salary, and Honeywell said, you can stay 5 years we give you to not work at Honeywell, and we'll take you back when the 5 years are up, because they needed him to also make money for them. He was an engineer working on war projects and war defense projects. So that's how it started. The Urban League paid him, and then things got bigger and better, and he decided, how about if I make a national book? In other words, people in Minneapolis like Honeywell, General Mills, Pillsbury, all those big companies can buy stuff from Chicago or whatever, So he tried to put together, well, that takes a lot of phone calls to, hello, this is Chicago, what do you do? Oh, we make shoes, whatever. And you export it to Minneapolis. Yeah, we export all over. So Honeywell let him have what they called in those days a HUTS line. That's wide area telephone system, something, whatever. And that meant he could call all over the country to interview these businesses, and Honeywell would pay the bill. So that was nice. We had no money, it was just an idea, And so we did that. Then he needed the name of all those black companies in other states. So he called the Urban League's branches in the other cities, the various other black organizations, which I can't remember their names, but he's used to doing a thorough job. For Honeywell, if you don't do your best at all times, you're out. So that attitude he took to the project. So he gathered these lists from, so then you had to organize. First you had to interview them and make sure they had the information what it is that they sell. Then you have to organize it in a book like a telephone book, but we did it by what it was like. Advertising agencies would be, and B, bakers and butchers or whatever, the B and C and so on, by what they did. So the book started out small, so we decided we have to do more. I joined the effort because he was getting overwhelmed, even though he worked there full time. So I'll help you. My last child started kindergarten or first grade, and I decided I can leave home. That was completely unheard of in those days. Mother stayed at home and took care of the kids, but I did it. So anyway, he decided we're going to go on a trip to different cities and different states to meet some of these companies, people, and meet some of the black organizations that gave us the names, and advertise, talk on the radio, on the TV, and get newspapers to write about him. And so his name and his story, what he was doing, appeared in all kinds of newspapers all over the country. And the proudest that he and I were, he got written up in the New York Times. And then the Time magazine as well. So we felt we had arrived. And so he, while he was out talking to the various companies, white companies and black companies, whites to encourage them to, buy the book so they would have names. That was completely unheard of. A white company wouldn't dream of seeking out on purpose. But he managed, so all the newspapers were, writing up about him. But the children and I had to fend for ourselves in each city because we were not part of the project or whatever it was. The excuse, the kids would be bored, sitting there visiting. So we took them to museums, they got an education, museums, libraries, parks, and I with the 3 kids. And anyway, it was an interesting trip. We drove through a big circle from Minneapolis to New York and Cleveland. I don't know how many cities we visited, 16, 20. Anyway, so that, and the book grew bigger and fatter and the publicity, So pretty soon we had to hire people to manage all this information and type it up, and so, but we had no money to pay people because it was all hand-to-mouth existence. I worked for nothing. My husband got paid by the Urban League, and so we decided, we approached the Urban League. How can we hire people that we don't have any money? There's all these programs, Neighborhood Youth Corps, and I can't remember all the names, but they were programs to employ teenagers to learn how to work in the business world, so when they graduate high school, they would know how to apply for a job and they would have experience. I worked in a bakery, office, I learned to type, I learned to cook, whatever. And people are more apt to hire you if you have experience. And these were mostly African American kids, which of course white people wouldn't interview you no matter what. But being that you came from this program and there was a little pressure to hire them anyway, these kids, like she said, under the skin there, you're the same. You want to work, and you want to do a good job, and you want to earn your own money, you know. The parents were mostly on welfare because they were struggling with cleaning jobs and babysitting jobs. The lowest of the lowest was reserved for black people in those days. And you couldn't get nothing, a secretary, forget about it. So these kids learned different skills so they could rise above that situation. And so I was the mother hen, you know, the Jewish mother. I always say a Jewish mother worrying about each child and teaching them the facts of life in the business world, you know. And for years and years they stayed in touch with me. I have two women that I still, this is now 15 more years, you know, 1960, 68 it started, so it's 1970s. We are now 22. I have three women that I still meet with now, 50 years later. They are grandparents, they have grandchildren, you know. So I got along with all of those kids. They looked at me as a second mother, you know. But I was not babying them, you know. I was the boss, and they treated me with respect. They called me Mrs. Meyerhoff, you know, and in those days you didn't call people by their first name when they were adults. Children called you Mrs. Meyerhoff, can Julie come over, you know. It was always Mrs. So they called me Mrs. Meyerhoff to situation today. But anyway, I enjoy doing the work, and I handed the baton, so to speak. Or when my husband had to go back to Honeywell, I took over. I became the executive director. And then I gave the baton to another, you know, we hired another person and then another, so on. So I was going to bring some stuff that I found I decided it's too complicated. You start reading and not pass it along, you'll never make the, you know, trip. So I left it all home. That's what I tried to do, my husband and I.